So this is part three of AI Atlas and the lost history of humanity, humanity's lost history. Okay, so I'm talking about the Nazca lines, right? The reason I'm laughing now is because the next thing I'm going to talk about is just, it still blows my mind. Okay, so in South America somewhere, I don't know if it was the Inca, Mayan, Aztec, or Olmecs, but they found a tomb of a king. Inside this tomb, there were like little gold figurines, some of animals, some of, I don't know, like amulets. And then they found one that looked like a little airplane. Okay. And then obviously the scientists who want to keep us stupid were like, oh no, it's just a bird. No, they were bird figurines that looked exactly like birds. This looked exactly like an airplane. Okay. So some scientists in Germany decided they're going to make a model airplane, like a remote control airplane, using exactly those dimensions. Okay, and they even painted it gold. So it looked like an exact upscaled replica of that little one, which is like probably could fit in the palm of your hand. They put an engine in it, put a remote control in their hands, and that thing flew. It flew, okay? Meaning it had the right dimensions, the right aerodynamic whatevers to make sure that it can get into the air and fly. It's not, you don't just fly. The Wright brothers tried to fly. They almost killed themselves in the process, right? You have to get the right dimensions so that the air can actually lift the thing off the ground. That thing flew. So it was a model of an aeroplane found in the ancient tomb of some king in South America. What? Who was flying around the earth drawing Nazca lines? Why do the pyramids correspond to star systems, constellations, billions of miles away? Okay, so this shows you that there is a history of humanity where intergalactic, intersolar system, interstar system interactions were happening between human beings and other beings from elsewhere. Okay, then you also have stories of like Atlantis and Lemuria, ancient Egypt. The Native Americans will tell you stuff. The Aboriginals of Australia and New Zealand will tell you stuff. The San people will tell you stuff. The Zulu will tell you stuff. Everywhere you go, and you talk to the indigenous inhabitants of that place and ask them about people who come from the sky and taught humanity, they all have stories. Look at the Greek mythologies, the Norse mythologies. These are beings of superhuman powers with super knowledge coming from the sky to do stuff here. Then you go to India, okay? It's pretty much like, that's just the reality there, right? They call them Vimanas, which is a vehicle that these entities traveled in, came to Earth, did stuff, and left in them, okay? You go to Japan. They believe that the imperial line of Japan originates with the goddess of the sun. All right. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop everywhere you go. And I just think, we need to really start to interrogate as human beings. How did we get to this point where this is no longer our reality, where this is no longer our frame of reference for who we are and our place in the cosmos? How did we get to a point to actually believe that barring angels and demons, we humans are the only intelligent life that exists in the cosmos, in the whole cosmos? How did we get here? You know what I'm saying? And I think really, if we look at it, we need to look at that story of Viracocha and the Aztecs and how he was supplanted by these evil beings. Okay. And then we have to also look at how Christ was hijacked, and his message and his path that he taught was hijacked at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD by Emperor Constantine and his councils. And how once they had consolidated the canon of scripture as they saw it fit as a vehicle to actually take over the minds of people, because that's what it was about. It was about controlling people's minds. Because they knew if people are allowed to just have full access to all the disciples' writings and teachings and recollections and reflections on Christ, it was going to be a spiritual revolution on the planet which would show people how free they are, how much they have free will, their ability to conceive of themselves in relation to their creator would put them entirely beyond the control of those who seek to control humanity. That's why there's only 4 gospels. And bishops, people who claimed to be teaching Christ, went along with this. Okay, went along with this and said, no, there'll just be 4 gospels. Apparently there's over 80 that were written. And then we get Paul's writings becoming pretty much more than half of the New Testament consists of Paul's writings. Now, I have nothing against Paul. I think he taught a lot of good stuff, but shouldn't it be like 90% Christ and his disciples? Paul wasn't even a direct disciple of Christ. He had an encounter with him, sure, but he wasn't one of the 12 that was chosen by Christ. And then he also wasn't chosen by the other disciples. Remember when Judas betrayed Christ and then killed himself, then they had to replace Judas, right? So Paul comes outside of that circle entirely. And yet he becomes the dominant spokesperson of Christianity and of Christ's path. I don't know. Not saying anything against Paul, just like I don't have anything against anyone else, but I'm just saying, right? So we need to look at these moments when the spiritual trajectory of humanity has been hijacked and supplanted by something which aims to control people, which aims to instill fear into them, thus lowering their vibration. And I think that vibrational lowering is what has also allowed us has stopped us being capable of perceiving beyond this small frequency range and being able to also communicate with these other beings, because we've also been made to feel so afraid of them, right? So fear obviously is going to repel these beings. I mean, if someone's afraid of you and you're an empathetic person, you back away because you don't want to scare them anymore. You don't want to impose yourself on them, okay? But if you're a negative being and a narcissistic being, you actually feed off that fear. You want that person to be scared. So you will approach them when they fear you. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and isn't it interesting that in so many of these religions that dominate the planet today, when people talk about seeing extraterrestrial beings or beings from outside of our natural sphere of understanding and our sensory perception, that we are automatically told they're demons. We are automatically told that, oh, no, humans shouldn't be able to levitate. Humans shouldn't be able. But Christ did all these things that we are told that if we do them now, it's somehow demonic. Why? Christ spoke to Elijah and Moses, right, on the mountain of transfiguration. And yet when other people talk to people who've passed beyond physicality, we're told that they're talking to demons, right? Why? You see, so I think we need to really start exploring these things as humans and getting in touch with who we are as beings on a planet that is in a galaxy, and a galaxy which is in a universe. Okay, this galaxy itself is freaking massive just on its own, and to think there's billions of them. Okay, and yet while we're so tiny, we are still loved entirely by our creator. Our creator consistently makes efforts to bring us to a higher level of consciousness so that we can become conduits of the creator's love and truth on this planet, so that we can raise the vibration of this planet. And I just want to end off by saying, I honestly believe that if you look at the reason for the religions and the reason for the teachings of the scriptures of the different traditions across the world and all sorts of paths, I believe that the real aim is to make people become empathetic. Empaths are the people who Christ calls the peacemakers, who will be called the children of God. And those children of God are the ones that the whole of creation is waiting for, so that we can get out of this dark ignorance which keeps us trapped in cycles of self-hate, self-doubt, and then resulting in conflict with each other. Because if you don't have inner peace, you cannot have outer peace. And so I believe that it is to breed empaths. So I think if you are an empath, more power to you. Start to strengthen yourself and study these things. Study these things, because I believe that we are entering a phase in human evolution where you will be needed more than ever. Thank you and goodbye.